Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 33 of Cutscene Convos. I had the wrong one in my notes. What a fool.
Oh dear.
Yeah, episode 33 of Cutscene Convos. Fun fact, if you're listening to this right now, there is a small chance that you are giving us our 100,000 view on the channel.
This is true.
So just in case you are, don't forget to also like, because it'd be a real shame if our 100,000 view didn't also include a like.
And you don't want to be one of the 100,000 viewers and not be subscribed.
Exactly. Exactamundo. We've got some interesting stuff to discuss this week. Character profile on the loser of last week's Superhero Showdown, Black Knight. We've got episode number 4 of She-Hulk to break down for you, as well as episodes 1 and 2 of Rings of Power, the new Amazon Prime Lord of the Rings show, as well as a little bit of news surrounding the Emmys and Marvel's participation in them, and a couple of last-minute rumours surrounding D23, which obviously kicks off right now, if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Or it's already happened. Who knows? But soon. And then this week's Superhero Showdown is Captain America versus Scott Lang.
Should be an interesting one.
Going to be very, very interesting. But before all of that, Hori, how's your week been?
My week's been work busy for once. Well, I say for once. I've not played games at DGen hours like normal because I've been busy with work.
Oh my goodness, you've actually been adulting?
Yeah, I actually had a very respectable work week.
That is simply outrageous.
You obviously know one of the things we are coming up.
Yeah.
Totally haven't leaked it. What am I about? No? Huh? What? KCP.
No NDAs have been broken?
He doesn't know, actually.
NDAs haven't been broken. What?
So lots of work going into that project. We've got, as people are listening to, as this episode comes out, I know it won't be announced yet. We have an announcement going up the day of this episode.
So make sure you head over to KCP's Twitter to see what the announcement is.
So
I know I'll be doing it because I definitely don't already know.
No, you don't know, actually.
Or do I not?
No, you don't know tomorrow's.
That's some bullshit.
Got to work on some of the stuff for that, so that's cool. But yeah, busy week. And then it's also like prepping for October because esports, like our esports teams, come off season in October. So although we're only just in September, we're already got to start planning for October.
Yeah, so you've always got to be months ahead in anything like this.
Yeah, so
which is why it's so stressful for us doing this podcast weekly. It's like we edit loads of stuff. We have like 80 videos ready to go up for a week, and we're like, yeah. And then it gets to this time, we're like, shit, there is nothing left.
Yeah, time to go again.
Exactly.
So yeah, just busy work week. And may have picked back up New World. I don't know if you remember.
Oh no! So you've given up DJing on Rust and you go DJing on New World instead.
So I've given up DJing on a game that needs you to be available 24/7 to have any chance of doing well, because it's just the way Rust is. It's day after day.
Yeah.
To another game that I will probably DJ on. It's just I can DJ more flexibly.
Flexible degenerate gaming.
Yeah. There's my mate picked it up again because there's new content coming and the new content sounds good. And yeah, back on New World.
Fair enough.
But how's your week been?
So, for those of you regular listeners, last week I said it felt like at work it was either about to go one way or the other, where it was going to be nutty busy or it was going to die.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it went the nutty busy route.
Why am I not surprised?
So I got in from work today and I literally could have quite easily fallen asleep on my sofa. I'm so exhausted. But I mean, it's the ebbs and flows of the working world.
Yeah.
And once you get over that big hump of busy work, going back to that normal level of work genuinely feels quite relaxing for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
So it shouldn't be too bad. but that's just the way it is. I also got.
Oh yeah,
On my
you
chair, by
have
the way.
managed to fit it in.
Yeah, it's not great.
It
And I know,
works.
is it backwards? I can't tell.
No, it's not
Anyway,
backwards.
yeah, it's my camera's backwards, but it won't be
Oh,
for
okay.
you.
Okay.
So that is for, anyone who pays any attention, the logo for the podcast that my girlfriend put a fun background to using our colours and then put on a canvas for me. I haven't had a chance to hang it up yet, but it's back there. It's peeking out. It's saying hi,
That's right.
which is really cool.
We'll eventually have it as neon signs.
Yeah.
When we've got
We will get just an outrageously think of the A on the Avengers Tower, but bigger. That's where we're going.
just gonna have it like cutscene convos.
Yeah.
Full 3D letters on the wall.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be great. But yeah, no, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Super cool.
But I think that's about it. To be fair, it's just one of them weeks.
Yeah, just wet weeks.
Yeah, it's been really weird. So a couple of weeks back, obviously, on my YouTube channel, I had a couple of shorts pop off, and I was like, "Yeah, this is sick." My YouTube channel, all of a sudden, I'm not allowed to get views anymore. But both the videos and shorts on our channel, this channel, seem to be getting a good amount of traction at the minute. So I don't know if someone at YouTube, fucking Susan, sitting there in her CEO office and all that money is going, you can have one good channel and that is it. Or if
do you know what you need to do?
Somehow I'm doing something different between the two channels or what, but
remake this content while you're streaming. And just make all the same points that you do on the podcast on your stream and then make those into shorts for your own channel.
Do it TikTok style of just having GTA 5 race gameplay over the top of me talking, yeah?
Yeah, or Minecraft parkour.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy with how everything is going at the minute. I am ordering the new iPhone 14 tomorrow, which I'm very excited about.
iPhone.
Because I've not had a new phone in ages. And it's just crazy, like, the level of upgrade I'm making here. But the thing is, like, I love technology. Like, I'm the fucking idiot for how much I love technology, but because I've never really had the ability, I've always been very much I run my phones into the ground.
Same.
But I'm now kind of at a point where I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna make it work because I do like technology. I love the newest technology. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm hoping by the end of the year I'll have my new phone. I will have an Apple Watch and I'll have some AirPod Pros, hopefully, which will be fun.
See, I always run my phone into the ground. Like I won't get one till it stops working.
I think the big part for me now is because of how much of a big push Apple is putting on trying to go carbon neutral. Buying a phone now and then like trading it in 2 years for a new phone, then they're probably going to give really good fucking trade-in value because they want to be seen to hitting their green targets.
True.
So I feel like it's a good time to capitalize on that. It's a bit of a gamble. It might go the other way where they're like, no, we're going to give you no money because we're helping the environment. Why should we give you money while helping the environment?
Wow.
But we'll see. But I mean, regardless, I want the new phone. I was looking at some Android phones, but then I saw the Apple. Then I saw the Apple press conference the other day, and I was like, they hooked me in again. Yeah, it's probably the closest I've ever been switching to Android, to be fair.
When did I switch? I switched 3 years ago. No, more than that.
That.
No, it wasn't. It was when I finished uni.
That's more than 3 years ago, pal.
No, it isn't.
You didn't finish uni the same season, the same year the CDL started.
Yeah, I did.
No way.
Yeah, I did. I know I did.
Oh, that feels so weird.
It does feel longer than 3 years, but it is only 3 years.
Nah, that's outrageous. Okay. Anyway, we're getting so badly derailed. Jesus Christ. Okay. Character profile this week.
Yeah, let's go on with it.
So, as again, long-time viewers will know, I love to bitch and moan about the character profiles, despite the fact that no one asked me to do them and I just do them.
Mm-hmm.
But I found a little cheat code. Our bracket, our huge big bracket we worked on, has basically only got 2 characters that we've done character profiles on before. So unless there
Easy.
is a valid one for the week, I'm just going to take the loser of the previous week and do a character profile on them.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Which just makes sense.
It does. It's actually pretty smart from me. Anyway,
Very big brain.
the Black Knight has had a few names. We are focusing on Dane Whitman. Dane Whitman, some of you might recognise the name from Eternals.
Mm-hmm.
That is what was teased at the end of Eternals. If you've only just arrived here, congratulations.
If you were more focused on the actor than what was actually going on, don't blame you.
So the Black Knight we're discussing is Dane Whitman. He made his first appearance all the way back in Avengers number 47 in October of 1967.
It's pretty old.
Yeah, he is. It's a pretty interesting one because Dane's uncle Nathan Garrett had died.
Mm-hmm.
And Dane inherited his castle and his fortune. What he wasn't aware of was that his uncle had also been the Black Knight, but had been a bit of a villain. And by a bit, I mean very much a villain. While at the castle, he discovered the Ebony Blade. He passed the tests, very generic kind of, oh, you must pass the test to use this kind of thing.
Are you worthy?
Yeah, that kind of vibe. And he did that. And he met Sir Percival, who, as I'm sure some of you, I don't know, it's not history, what would you call it? I don't know. Would you call people who are obsessed with like false history, but like, I don't know. He was one of the Knights of Arthur's Round Table.
Isn't it like folklore or like...
Yeah, folklore. That's probably the best way to describe it. Sir Percival was part of the Knights of the Round Table.
Mm-hmm.
He explained that the Ebony Blade kind of had a curse on it that kind of elevated what you did. So if you committed crimes and killed people with it, the sword would start like wanting more blood and would kind of overtake your brain and like not give you the ability to not kill people.
Yeah, like it increases your influence on you.
Exactly. Which is obviously what Dane's uncle had done, and that's why he got so evil.
Mm-hmm. Understandable.
So Dane went, well, fuck that. I know about the curse, so I'm going to be smarter. So he decided to join the Masters of Evil, like his uncle. But instead, what he wanted to do was infiltrate them and bring them down from the inside to help the Avengers.
Ah, a mole.
Yes, exactly that. However, the Avengers didn't trust him.
I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly. So even after he did help them take down the Masters of Evil, the Avengers were still a bit like, you're not part of our club, go away. It was only when, surprise, surprise, he helped them against Kang, they actually began to trust him. Are we noticing a theme with characters that are popping up already?
Yes.
But don't worry, Marvel shit-face form feels so disconnected, it makes no sense. No, they're laying groundwork, have patience. Anyway, always time for a mini rant. So after he then helped them with Kang on an occasion, he kind of became exactly what he is. He's a C-tier hero, let's be honest. He bounced around a number of teams, including the Avengers. He's done a number of stints on the Avengers. He's been part of the Defenders, and he's also been part of Excalibur. Excalibur is a team of British-based heroes, so Captain Britain, Union Jack, Black Knight, characters like that. I would not be outrageously surprised if after Phase 6 we get Excalibur films or Captain Britain films. Captain Britain had a weird bubble in history where he was like an incredibly popular character, like obscenely popular. Like he went from being unknown, crazy popular, then fell off really quickly again and kind of got left to die. It was almost like one writer had a bit of luck with him. That luck ran out and everyone was like, that's a shit character. I don't know how you made it work. We're not even going to try.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's the only way I could really describe it. I do think that success was quite localized to England,
Well,
which makes sense.
yeah.
I can't imagine there's many countries where parents would have been happy in like the 70s seeing their kids run around with a superhero who's English. Let's be honest, we don't exactly have the best reputation. Um, yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get Excalibur and Captain Britain and films like that down the road. And there are
Be
some
cool.
rumors about a gender bending of Union Jack. Who was it that I heard was going to play them?
Interesting.
Union Jack actress. Who was it? Who was it? Who was it? Who was it?
Pause champ.
Olivia Colman.
I feel like I know that name, but I don't.
You will. She's very, very popular. She played the Queen in The Crown.
I've not watched The Crown.
You'd recognise her if you saw her.
I'm Googling. Oh, I know who that is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So there's been some rumours. I don't know where they've come from or what film she's supposed to appear in, but apparently she's been cast as Union Jack. Take that with the biggest grain of salt you have available. But yeah, that's all there is really to say about Black Knight. Again, he seems to be one of these characters that Marvel came up with, used him a bit, and then he's just kind of fell by the wayside as fans over the years have had exposure to different characters. He's been used less and less. But he seems to still be an old reliable when they need to make numbers up for a team comic. And obviously they've set him up at the end of Eternals.
Yeah.
We heard Blade's voice talk to him from out of shot in Eternals with Moon Knight and Blade, and I mean Black Knight is definitely the kind of guy I could see on a Midnight Suns team. He might be one of the members we end up with on Midnight Suns. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think that's all I've got to say on Black Knight, which brings us on to She-Hulk episode 4.
Great episode. So funny.
My favourite episode so far.
I think I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
As stupid as it sounds, because it didn't really, it's eased my concerns about pacing. Because I'm starting to think they're just going, fuck an overarching story. This is a lawyer show. She's going to deal with different lawyer shit every week.
Yeah.
With little bits that hang over, which I'm fine with. I don't mind it being a baddie of the week kind of show. Because it actually really works. Benedict Wong back as Wong, giving us the best Wong possible. Wong is.
How many times can we say Wong in 5 minutes?
Exactly. So I'm gonna have to say it again now. While Wong is in a lot of times a very serious character, we know he has his funny moments, and She-Hulk is leaning into that funny side.
Well, yeah. Even back in the first Doctor Strange, he was like teased to be a bit more like lighthearted.
Yeah, he's got a funny side.
Yeah.
So the idea that he's sitting there getting ready to watch The Sopranos, this girl busts into his house through a portal, and he gets so angry about her spoiling The Sopranos that he goes to Jen to try and sue the fucking magician who's done it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I also love that I feel like he's watching Sopranos because it's like, do you remember when Cap had that list that like everyone kept recommending stuff to him? I bet it's something similar because like he lived up in Comatage.
Yep.
For like how long, and then he's moved to New York with Doctor Strange, and it's like he's probably like, oh shit, there's loads of stuff that I haven't watched, using his off time as Sorcerer Supreme to catch up on Sopranos.
You've also got to remember when he wasn't the Sorcerer Supreme, he will have had responsibilities like day to day.
As
Sorcerer Supreme, he's got to be ready for stuff to go wrong and then react.
Yeah.
So he will have more time to catch up on the shit he's not been able to do. But it's just brilliant. It shows the more human side of Wong because yes, he's master of the mystic arts, but he is a human. But it also allowed the comedy to flourish.
Yeah.
So I'm not. This. If you know what I'm talking about here, you are a proper OG you listen regularly and we love you. I did a character profile on Ghost Rider a number of weeks back because in the trailer for She-Hulk the previous week, there was a Johnny Blaze poster in the background that everyone was losing their collective mind over. And it was a fucking bait, and I couldn't be happier. Donny Blaze, ladies and gentlemen. Donny Blaze.
Has anyone...
I'm so good. Have I checked to see if he's actually a real character? I don't know.
No. I was going to say, has anyone gone back to the poster? Does it actually say Johnny, or is it just such bad quality that it is actually Donny?
So, I think it's just so bad quality, but you could make out Blaze clearly.
I'm looking at it now.
And there was loads of fire.
You can't really tell what the first two letters are, but it's like NNY Blaze, and there's fire behind what we now know is Donny Blaze. That is a huge bait, and I love it.
Yeah, no, they've set it up beautifully so that everyone would assume it's a Ghost Rider thing, because it was also on like a show poster, and obviously Johnny Blaze is a stuntman, so like that would make sense. So well done, very entertaining. The B story around her dating life, was really good. I love the cool right at the beginning after like the opening shot with Wong, where she looks at the camera and goes, I love having Wong. It's like having Twitter protection for a week. Brilliant.
It's like that was off the rip, and I was already laughing. I was like, "Oh, this is great."
Yes.
They're using, like we talked about it last week, but they keep using the fourth wall break. It's basically a way to just like poke fun at all the idiots on the internet, and I love
let's
it.
be honest, in written media, the fourth wall break has always been literally to talk to the viewer. So the way they're using it is we're going to talk to the fans who are genuinely trying to have a good time and are not just here to find stuff to moan about.
Yeah.
And we know you hate the fans who just bitch and moan constantly. So let's have a little joke at them. And they're going to be super angry about it, which makes the joke even funnier.
Exactly. I knew for a fact when she said that, and I was like, oh, this is like exactly what pisses off the Twitter like trolls.
I am not normally at comedies actually a laugh out loud kind of person. Like, my favourite comedy of all time is probably like How I Met Mother or Scrubs. And very rarely did I actually like laugh out loud at that. I just kind of sit there and I'm like, yes, this is funny. That
Classic
moment,
British
genuinely, while I'm sitting there having my lunch, genuinely, I was like, that's fucking brilliant. I started laughing.
That was so good. And then, like the whole dating profile side of things, obvious rip-off of Tinder. Thought that was hilarious. And the whole, like, typical lawyer fashion, someone who's not been, like, puts their corporate headshot as their profile picture. And then the whole, her friend being like, it's a numbers game. It's just a numbers game, and she's swiping, because everyone knows that's the case.
Do you know what else I liked as well? And the best bit is, this is going to piss off the shitty financial site we're talking about. When she was sorting out her profile, she said, this is hetero hell.
Yes.
Which is a very subtle way to drop the fact that she's not straight.
Yeah.
Without putting it in your face.
Yeah, it was
which is what
like...
these people are always like. They're always like, I don't mind people being gay, but why does it have to be so in my face? It's not in your face. So if you still have an issue, guess what? You're homophobic.
Yeah. It was one of those, it was like that comment, she drops that comment, and you go, oh, sure, she's gay. And then it was just like, carry on. Like, you don't think anything else of it. It was funny, though, that, like, you knew as soon as she did the She-Hulk thing, and then she's like, I'm not proud of this as well, as the 4-4 break. And it's like, instant matches. Because you know, all the memes of everyone when the show got announced being like, Mummy.
Crush me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like taking all that and putting it into the show.
Do you want to know my genuine issue with the whole dating saga?
Go on.
And it is stupid. And it's just part of this thing. You know how, like, when you watch any kind of superhero content, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit? This is a really stupid thing to not be able to suspend my disbelief over. The actress playing Jen, I forget her name, would not struggle to get dates. She wouldn't get no matches. Don't get me wrong, she'd get a lot of creeps, but she wouldn't get no matches. She's a very pretty lady who's very intelligent. She wouldn't get no matches. And I really struggle to sit there with a straight face and believe that she would have got no matches and that she had to resort to being She-Hulk.
It depends. I think that my only thing with that is, like, if she has, because we saw she put her corporate headshot. If she's very like, I'm a lawyer, I'm in a powerful position on their profile, a lot of guys would not swipe right on that.
Okay, you know what? Valid. I can accept that. I can accept that.
So
Maybe they viewed her as uptight.
I presume she made her profile a bit too like straight lawyer.
I want to be married in 3 years.
Yeah,
2 dates a week.
guys
Maybe,
like this is someone too serious. No.
maybe. Okay, I
Also,
retract my complaint with that added context. I didn't think of it like that.
the way when she's actually on that day with the guy at the end, when she is in
Sorry,
She-Hulk
the
form.
creepy. Oh, okay.
No, the doctor, and he's like, she's instantly like he says the right things. It's like, oh, this is great. Yes, you come back to my place.
Can we talk about the elephant in the room though? So when
Cool.
he woke up the next day, he was confused by Jen because he clearly hadn't seen her before.
Yeah. Are you thinking? Are you insinuating what I was thinking about the general thing?
Yeah,
That a lot of guys.
It means they did have sex while she was in She-Hulk form. That's low-key terrifying.
I don't know. Hell of a time. Do you know what I also thought though? There's
I'm a little bit sad that he was such a dick at the end though.
Well, do you know what?
And I knew it was going to happen, but it still made me sad.
You know the thing that like guys joke about how when there's girls that wear like far too much makeup and like can make themselves look like a different person, and there's like the joke that when they take off the makeup, it's not the person that I met. It's like that, but She-Hulk form.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like clearly had some weird kink for She-Hulk and clearly not normal.
So I think the main part of her overarching story for this show is just going to be her coming to accept that her and She-Hulk are one and the same. Whereas right now she's still very disconnected between them two parts.
Yeah, she still wants to be both.
Yeah.
Which is sort of what Bruce went through.
Exactly. And I think the overarching story, we're going to have little bits that happen that teach her lessons, but the overarching story is just going to be her coming to terms with being a Hulk and genuinely accepting it, not just pretending to have accepted it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna get to the point at the end where she realizes, like how Bruce has become Smart Hulk, just accepting that it's going to be easier living as just the Hulk 24/7 than it would be to try and balance between the two. And I think we'll get to the point at the end where she just is She-Hulk all the time.
I actually wouldn't like that because in the comics she does change a fair bit, just out of ease.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if that made too much sense, but the general concept of she starts to view it herself as one person and not Jen and She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Because like Bruce had like a psychological split where he literally was two different people. Whereas Jen was always, it's like an internal split. She views it as two different things. So whereas Bruce had to work really hard to fuse them together so that they would work together, Jen's having to emotionally
fuse both
make
lives
them,
together.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Which isn't easy. I mean, let's be honest, it's a huge fucking change. And when she's being treated differently because of it, it's obviously going to be difficult. Because, like, we know she's intelligent, she's a great lawyer, but the fact that she's only got a job as a lawyer now because she's also She-Hulk is going to sting.
Mm-hmm. And she's only getting dates if she's She-Hulk.
Exactly. So I think, as with all stories, she's going to think there's no problem. She's going to start to loathe being She-Hulk a little bit more, and then there's going to be a resolution where she accepts it.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, that doesn't mean we won't get like a minor story that lasts like the next 5 episodes.
I think we will.
But I think we're still going to get, like last week, we had the B story about the Light Fairy. I think if they make this Titania lawsuit at the end, last like the A story for the next 5 episodes, each of them will still have a decent B story going alongside it.
I don't even know if they'll make maybe the Titania is just like the next episode's lost issue, and there's a tease of her boss which then links to
Maybe.
the boss of what we now realize is the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Please don't take away my nerd rights. I should have realised they were the Wrecking Crew. I saw a TikTok that made me realise, like an hour after we finished recording, I sent it to her. I was like, I fucked up. I should have put this together.
The start when her dad rocks up with her.
So good.
It's just that you know this would be true if like you were a dad and your daughter, even as a superhero, you would want to protect them. It's like it turns over a shovel and security cameras, and then he's like explaining all the cameras and stuff, and then she goes, "Yeah, but what's the shovel for?" Well, for digging holes. Like, what are you putting in these holes, Dad? Like,
it's just this notion that a parent is always going to try and protect their child, no matter how powerful they are.
Yeah.
So I don't care that you're a literal god, Thor. You're still my little boy.
Yeah. And the fact that she's like, well, next time someone jumps me, we can beat them up together.
You can use your shovel.
But I just love the idea of like, he was Bruce's dad. I don't remember what, like, was Bruce's dad around? Was Bruce's dad similar?
In the MCU, it's not really discussed too much. In the comics, Bruce's dad beat the ever-loving shit out of him, which is what gave him a split personality, which is why when he became the Hulk, Bruce and the Hulk had two separate identities.
Okay, well, I've learned something.
That's not been explicitly stated in the MCU, but it's kind of assumed that if the outcome of the Hulk and Bruce being two separate entities is the same, it's probably a similar
I was going to say, can you imagine Bruce's dad trying to be like that with Bruce?
Just fucking outrageous. But I think that's all there is to really say, other than, of course, the post-credit scene of Wongers and I forget her name. What was her name? Marianne?
Something like that, yeah.
Watching The Sopranos together.
Going through a list of drinks.
With actually a really pure friendship.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't really talked about the fact that Wong interrupted She-Hulk, because she wasn't She-Hulk film, on her date as things were getting spicy to go and beat up little demon things.
Yeah. Again, really enjoyable.
And like the whole like Wong being like, for fuck's sake, I've got to fix his issue. Comes like, and then I love the part where she was like, she had one of the demon things. She's like, right, before I throw this last one away, are you going to agree to sign our cease and desist? It's like still lawyer mode, even though she's mid-fight.
It was quite interesting. It was like, well, what do I do when she's still batting them away in like a very typical girly fashion? It's like, you're a Hulk.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, okay, grabs it, throws it at the floor.
Slamming them around. But yeah, the post-credit scene, it's like Wong's making friends with the most unlikely person you would expect.
Yeah.
And then they're going through the drinks, and then...
Have you had a Long Island iced tea? Yes, I think I have. It was quite nice.
Have you had a blue something or whatever? No, what's in it? Don't know, blue stuff. Like, which is the typical thing. If you order a blue drink at a bar, you're like, you don't know what's in it.
No, you ordered it because it's blue.
Yeah. And then the whole, I had she was like, have you had vodka straight? I've had vodka with yak's milk. And then she's like, wait, have you got some of that? Like, but I also love the fact that his favourite drink is a gin and tonic.
Yeah. I think the comedy in this episode was a lot stronger.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed the other episodes, but I think this has so far been the show at its best comedy-wise.
Mm-hmm.
The story was, again, exact. I would happily, if they wanted to go with this format of genuine, stupid, other superheroes' legal troubles. I'm not a fan of villain of the week type shows.
Mm-hmm.
I will watch 5 24-episode seasons of this.
Do you know what this like show kind of it takes like all the things from like the Avenger films, like when they're in the shawarma like takeaway, and those like funny like just real life sort of scenes, but making it into a whole show. And I'd love to see more of the like characters we all know rocking up in this as cameos, just doing like ordinary stuff like Wong's been doing.
Yeah, just imagine 5 seasons of this show, and you just get heroes rocking up, going, "Jen, I need your help."
Yeah.
I was fighting Bullseye, and I threw him against someone's car, and now they're suing me for damage. But I didn't hit the car; it was Bullseye's face, so I think he should have to pay.
Or it's like we get Doctor Strange, and he's like, "So the bus that I cut in half, the bus company's coming after me for the liabilities and damage."
Like just shit like that.
Yeah,
Oh, eat it. Oh, eat it up.
it would be great.
So good. But I think that's all there is to really say about She-Hulk episode 4.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm very confident with this show going forward. I think it's being done really well.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see. I feel like there is some twist they're building up to, so I'm interested to see where that goes.
And since Hori is the one looking for all the smoke, I'm gonna let him take the lead.
Well, the evening after we finished recording last week is when Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power released, and me being the degen that I was already up at 2 a.m. So I hopped onto Amazon Prime and watched both episodes back to back instantly. I'm gonna put it out there now. I'm not gonna go through and pull apart these episodes for everything that is not lore correct or pure to the Tolkien books. One, because I don't know all the lore off the top of my head, and two, because it's pointless considering the show was never going to be lore true from the get-go, which I think a lot of people seem to be forgetting. So a lot of people that are hating on the show being like, this isn't Tolkien's work, this isn't right, this isn't stayed true to Tolkien, where, and moaning and kicking up a fuss. I think a lot of those people seem to be forgetting the fact that Amazon doesn't have... The only rights that Amazon got for this show was the 3 Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And everything discussed in those books, which includes references to lore and stuff that happened in the First and Second Age, but only from those books' perspective. They have no rights to the... I'm going to butcher the name, Silmarillion, and a lot of the Second Age stuff. They're allowed to cover it, but they have to be careful not to be direct copies. They can't be like perfectly true because then they would get hit with copyright. And people are like, oh, well, Amazon spent $2 billion or whatever the ridiculous amount of money it was on this show. Why couldn't they just buy... They could have spent a bit more and bought the rights. No, it's not their choice. I'm sure Amazon offered them plenty of money for the rights. People are forgetting that the Tolkien estate is... Ever since The Hobbit came out, we're not selling the rights to anything again. And take your pain up with the Tolkien estate if it bothers you that much, but I'm putting that out there now as our caveat. I loved the show. I thought the show was amazing. I'm so glad to be back in Middle-earth. It was thoroughly enjoyable, and if you can look over the fact that it's not Tolkien pure lore, and it's more of a fan fiction remake, however you want to put it, alternate timeline, and it's just a fantasy show, you will enjoy it. So I just wanted to start off with that, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, this show's rubbish. Also, if you're saying that people of colour shouldn't exist because this is based off of Europe fantasy, get the fuck out. It's fantasy. You're just racist.
That I can 100% back up. If your main issue is, oh no, there's a black dwarf, get in the fucking bin. We don't want you here.
People are just... Yeah. People have given it far too much hate off the rip before, actually giving the show a chance. So, with that aside, I thought from the get-go, it was stunning with the cinematography, the CGI, all the set design and the props and makeup and costumes, and making an effort to actually do it practically. Yes, there's a lot of CGI, but there are still a ton of practical effects in this. I even a couple of times clocked when I could tell a scene was a miniature, but that's because I'm used to pulling stuff like that stuff apart, and my eyes just clock it now because I'm an artist. But the fact that I noticed that, and I was like, I love the fact that they are practically doing this stuff, which is what everyone loved about the original Lord of the Rings films, and what
Using
everyone.
miniature sets always allows for such good big sweeping shots.
Yeah, and it's like it was an
They
issue.
did it for a lot of Harry Potter as well.
Yeah, and it was an issue people had with The Hobbit was too CGI. So if you're going to complain about the show, you can't complain that they're not trying to do it practically. There was so much happened trying to.
I'm going to ask the first of my questions here.
Okay.
The main elven lady, Galadriel.
Yes, Galadriel.
Is she an elven princess, or is she just a important elven warrior?
So I think Tolkien lore, she is princess to someone. Whether they are still making that lineage the same in this, I don't know, but she is potentially is in this as well. I think she's definitely a person of high stature and power in the show.
And the main elven man that we saw a lot of,
Elrond.
Thank you. Is he just her friend, or is he a prince? Is he like what her brother, or is he like?
I'm pretty sure it's not her brother. It was friend, and I think prince. So Elrond and Galadriel are the two that were in Lord of the Rings.
I thought so.
Yes, it is the same.
Them names felt very familiar to me.
So it is the same characters that we know from Lord of the Rings.
Because elves lives for so fucking long.
This is just them in their early days when Elrond was, I don't know, like in this he is being counseled to the king, I think he's known. I forget the way they do their titles. And Galadriel's got this like duty of, I don't know, name duty to hunt down Sauron that she took from her brother. There's a lot of things they stayed true to, or like paid homage to. The two, I forgot. They have a proper name, but I just know them as the Trees of Light. In the open, so to break down episode 1, the opening shots, because I don't know if you're gonna have questions about this, but the opening shots about the war and the fighting we saw going on and the trees being burnt out is all about the First Age. That is the rise of Morgoth, who was is not the same person as Sauron,
but holds like the same
evil power that
vibe.
Morgoth like drew from or whatever is the same that Sauron was actually one of his generals, and and when Morgoth, that battle we saw, which then the scenes after was like the city flooded and it was like all red and there was people underwater.
So they basically beat Morgoth, but Sauron was such like a devout follower, he kind of built his own army.
Yeah, he basically ran away and rebuilt.
At this moment in time, does everyone, is it kind of, and people are going to hate me for this, but I've just got to put it something I know well. Is it kind of like Harry Potter style where some people know he's still about, but a lot of people are choosing to live in denial and think he's gone?
I think the majority of people, when Morgoth was defeated, which is that war we saw fighting, and then it shows her piling the helmets up. That was the Great. It's got a title of it. The War of Wrath. Is when Morgoth got defeated. Everyone at that majority of people are like, he's been defeated. Yes, there might be some of his followers like ran off and escaped, which is what Galadriel was hunting down for those. Her older brother was hunting down. He died doing it, and she carried it on. But it was kind of, it gone on, like, this is then over like a span of hundreds of years, or like to the point where it's kind of like old tale. So majority of people are like, that evil's long gone. that it doesn't exist
Other
anymore.
than like elves who live for so long, everyone's like, this is ancient history.
But even a lot of the elves, like you saw in the opening like scene with Gladriel and her troops, like they all were like, there's nothing here. Like even they
we've got them
believe,
all.
yeah, even they believed like there was like some of the ones at the top still kind of knew or felt that there was some evil presence out there, which there always will be in fantasy.
So,
like, oh.
we also had elves on post outside a human settlement.
Yes, so
is like Sauron and Morgulith like humans who found extra power, and so the humans are kind of treated like arseholes because it's like the biggest evil Middle Earth ever had came from you fuckers, so we're keeping an eye on you. Or what?
So you saw a bit of it when that elf was in town and that guy, that like younger lad, stands up and starts having a go at him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, our king will return," or whatever. Those people are pissed at them, and the people of that, I forget what that area of land was called. But essentially, yes, a lot of the men and humans stood with Morgoth. He was
But are
like
they
their
not all
leader.
too young to have been about for Morgoth? This is hundreds of years later, or do Middle Earth humans have a longer lifespan?
No, they have a normal lifespan. I don't know. So this is the problem with this is one thing that I'm struggling with the show is it keeps time jumping a bit. So it's like trying to know the time jump things. But like you gotta think if you're a young lad like that, you've probably been brought up your grandparents saying, "Oh well, the elves
So it's
have
kind
always
of a
suppressed
word.
us."
Yeah, it's a kind of word of mouth thing. Got you, got
Yeah.
you.
But
Okay,
yeah, so
that was the kind of vibe I was getting.
the humans stood with Morgoth. Morgoth got defeated. The elves then, obviously wanting to make sure the evil was gone, set up posts and tried to. Were there as ways for things to rebuild and get back to normal, but obviously we're there as an authority, which is why a lot of people hate them.
Okay, got you.
So the episode 1, we saw those early scenes where it shows the first stage and that fight. Then it jumps to obviously Galadriel's there where her brothers died, and then she is doing her own missions, and it jumps a little bit there. They've done that, all that time jumping. One, because they didn't want to have to like cast people for half an episode, because obviously humans would die off. They're trying to jump far enough along so that they can stick with characters. What else happened in the first? I'm trying to split between the two episodes. So the whole thing of Galadriel and all like there's a lot of these different scenes and the visuals all stunning. I loved that they spoke about the first age and brought it into here, and because it gave me very much the same vibes of how Lord of the Rings begins, where it talks about the second age and the creation of the rings and the defeat of Sauron.
My only issue with fantasy is how complex some of the names are. My brain gets so confused. I haven't spent enough time reading fantasy books, so I hear all these really long names, and I'm like, bro, ADHD brain ain't built for it. I don't know how you manage it.
Why do you think I have notes for this? Because I
was the first time Hori's ever taken notes.
Literally, because I know I'm like more in the know on Lord of the Rings stuff, or pay more attention, whatever. But so we saw Galadriel at the Elven City, which I've already forgotten the name of it. And she's getting that ceremony, which is essentially her being, what's the right word? It's not banished, but basically being like, we're to the public, we're commending your service, but really this is go the fuck home and stay out of trouble.
Okay, yeah. So that's when they're on the boat, right?
That's when so she does that whole ceremony of the crowns, and there's that like weird, awkward pause where she looks like she's about to say fuck off and stand up and walk away, but then she gets on the boat and goes.
Okay, cool. Where the fuck was that boat going?
So the boat was going to their homeland. So if you remember the first opening scene, she's in that like field.
Yeah.
That's the elven homelands. and then it showed on the map, didn't it? It like cut across the ocean to Middle Earth.
Yeah. Okay.
Their
So
homelands.
so did
It's
elves? So
go
did
on.
loads of elves move to like the main part of Middle Earth thousands of years ago, and they just haven't really gone home?
So the elves left their homeland when the whole Morgoth thing started because the evil infiltrated their lands and there was war. So they left to Middle Earth to basically go deal with it, which was those opening shots of. There was one in particular I just want to point out. We all now have a very clear reason as to why the elves didn't help the hobbits. Not the elves, the eagles. Everyone loves to say for Lord of the Rings, why didn't the eagles just fly them to Mount Doom and they could have skipped the whole walking journey? There's an opening shot where it showed like they have a name, but they're like dragon-like things that were what the Wraith Riders were riding on, and one of them's like killing an eagle. And it's like, if you're an eagle, a great eagle, and you remember those times, oh yeah, you don't want to get fucking involved with Sauron and stuff because you're like, I don't want to get fucking eaten by a dragon. Like, it was just a little throwback, like throw thing in there that I thought was cool. But yeah, so they left their land and came over to Middle Earth, fought evil, had that whole war with Morgoth and everything, and then have never gone home.
So does no one really know what the homeland is like?
I think some, I don't know that full lore. There's probably is some that have gone home because it seems like it's a ceremonial thing now to get to return home.
So exactly. So this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, is it to the public, going back to the homeland is almost seen as like going to heaven, but in actuality, no one fucking knows what it's like over there, and they could literally just be sending them straight to their death.
Potentially, but I think that it might be explained in lore in other books, but I don't know. But my understanding is that it is essentially going to heaven, but once you go there, you can't leave again.
God, yeah.
So that's why it's like the grey clouds open and it's very like going to heaven-esque because essentially
So the elves
it is
basically fucking gods in
they
Middle Earth.
come from gods. I'm pretty sure is they're like offspring of gods, so to speak.
Okay, cool. So racists are really mad about that elven soldier who's black then.
Oh yeah, people don't like the fact that there's black elves, black dwarves, black youth. Like people are like trying to make out that Tolkien's from Europe.
Fantasy genre people are quite racist. Like, I know it's not okay to generalize, which is really funny bearing in mind what we're talking about, but I just feel like fantasy for so long, because of when a lot of it was written, has mainly white people, that now people assume it has to only have white people, when actually, no.
I think the issue has come from Tolkien being such one of the biggest fantasy writers, and I think a couple of other big fantasy writers are all from Europe. So obviously they're going to write about like the land, like speak in terms of like what take inspiration from the European lands and whatnot. And they're going to be very whitewashed in their writing back then. The problem is everyone then's like, well, Middle Earth's based off if Europe fantasy, and it's like, well, yeah, but that was like just because something takes inspiration from Europe and stuff, like this is Middle Earth, it's fantasy, it can be whatever the fuck it wants. So people are very hung up on that.
Okay, I would like Amazon just for me, just to annoy people. I would like a trans black elven dwarf, please. Thank you. That is all.
I don't know if you can get an elven dwarf.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Elrond and his dwarven mate had a baby. Who cares?
I don't know if it would come out like as an elf dwarf or dwarf.
It'll come out as a dwarf with pointy ears. What's your problem?
Possibly. No, it could do.
Wait, do dwarves already have pointy ears?
No. No, they kept that. The dwarves are short, stout, bearded people. Elves had pointy ears. Humans are humans, and then you had the hobbits that are like live in a hole in the ground.
I have another question, and this is just from something from years ago that I never understood. So I've seen Lord of the Rings, you have that scene where they're all walking through the snow, but you have
Gandalf.
no, the elf.
Oh, Legolas.
Legolas, thank you, Jesus Christ. Walking very comfortably on top of the snow.
Mm-hmm.
What causes that? Is it just because they're like really light of foot or something?
Yeah, they're light-footed.
Okay. So why were the elves struggling so much in the blizzard then? Is that just because it was snowing so heavily it was making their life difficult?
Yeah, and there's also like they mentioned that their torches were giving off no heat, which is a common thing in Lord of the Rings. Is when there's evil around, heat like is always cold. Like it's done with the ring. The one ring reveals itself in heat, but it's cold to touch. There's other mentions in the Lord of the Rings films of like flames being cold. I think they were playing into it was like such a harsh environment because they're in that situation and then they realize, oh, we're on top of the fortress we're looking for. So like they're in such a place of evil that
so
even
the snow
they're
wasn't
struggling.
the problem, it's just everything is a lot.
Yeah, I think they were trying to sell like they were in because the elves it's all very much like they're based around light and bringing light into darkness, and evil is always the dark.
So
and they were in such
elves
a like
supposed to be like these really pure good things.
Yeah, they're meant to be essentially like their land is like would be a human's heaven, and it's like they can make that mystical cross from their land to Middle Earth, and it's like they're meant to be these creatures of light. And
okay, are there evil elves?
There are probably
that Donnie that Eldron was talking to before he went to see his dwarf buddy was giving me a weird vibe.
So
I don't trust him.
The crafter, like artisan bloke, I think elves can be influenced by evil. There's probably some evil elves in the lore that I don't know of. Generally, they're very much of duty and very pure to their cause. You could probably say some people, like if you were an elf, you'd probably class Galadriel as somewhat evil for going against what she's like her duty and what she's meant to do.
Oh, so she'd be like...
She's like a deserter at the moment because she jumped off the ship and abandoned what she was meant to be going home.
Okay. So she would definitely be frowned upon for that.
Probably. But she's probably going to
furious right now that I know so little. It's great.
I think it's fine. It's like me. I'm like that with a lot of the Marvel stuff. So, I'm trying to keep to what happens in the first episode.
Yeah.
Because they don't go to the Dwarven City till episode 2.
No, they don't. I think they mention that he's going to go in episode 1, but he doesn't go till episode 2.
Obviously, we got introduced to the hobbits. Or pre-settled down hobbits. They are travelers.
Okay, yes, that was another question I had. So they call themselves Harefoots. Are they just like an earlier stage of hobbits?
Yeah, they're basically just the early day hobbits.
I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't 100% sure.
There is one of them has a family name that's like Trailfoot or something, which some people are making the prediction that in Lord of the Rings, there's like when they're doing the party, one of them's like the Proudfoot family stands by. It's like they're obviously like ancestors to the hobbits of the Shire.
Also, I don't know if I just never noticed this in the Lord of the Rings films, but are hobbits supposed to sound Irish? Or is there a reason they're making all of them sound Irish?
I think it's a trope that was probably how they were described in the books.
Okay, cool.
Because they were people that lived far, they were like Somerset Irishy accents because they live on the hills and farm and they're travellers.
Got ya.
Especially in this is them in the early days when they still travel around, and they mention
before they settle in the Shire.
Well, they mention the fact that they don't settle and get involved. They're like the ripples on the waves. They just go with the flow of the land. And I love the fact that we got that shot of like the two hunters with the huge elk antlers that looked like that whole costume design looked amazing.
Yeah.
And they're walking along and they're talking about how they can't find anything to hunt. And then they disappear over the ridge, and then out pops all the camouflage, and there's the hobbits have been hiding away, and the fact that they're just like they just live amongst the trees or whatnot and hide themselves, and it's very like.
So, are we gonna like find out what caused these creatures who always travel to finally settle somewhere?
I would imagine this show will go into them settling down somewhere.
Because like that's like a big change in their life. Bearing in mind, like by the time we get to Lord of the Rings, like the idea of a hobbit leaving the Shire is outrageous.
Yeah, but
Whereas before they
saying that,
would
though,
never stay anywhere for long.
yes, but they also were very much, and they say in the show, like they talk about the fact that no, we stick together and we're strong together, and the idea of a hobbit going off on an adventure to explore the world is still frowned upon by them, even in their like they have a set migration that they're sticking to. For whatever reason, I would imagine it's something to do with like the land's getting more evil, so it's not as safe to just be traveling their migration that they used to do, and they decide, oh, we'll just settle instead.
I know some people weren't sure about the casting of Lenny Henry in like such a serious show. I thought he was really good. I really enjoyed his performance. I look forward to more from him. I thought he was really, really good and brought a lot to it.
Yeah, and I think he fit in like the whole way they're portraying the hobbits is a lot more like not loopy, but they're very like travelly, rough, and like they're
folksy.
Yeah, they're folky, and I think he can play into that really well.
It's what it feels like if you were to just go driving in like the West Country in England, and you have to pull over in a little village because like you're running low on petrol, and you're there trying to have a conversation. Yeah, and they've got like a proper thick accent, and even you, as someone who is speaking the same language, you're like, petrol. They're kind of that vibe where they're just living their life.
Yeah, and I love that even though they're in this like raw stage of being hobbits from what we know in Lord of the Rings, it still immediately was like, oh, this is hobbits. Like this.
Well, that's why I was so confused when they're referred to as Harefoot. So I'm like, wait, I thought they were hobbits. What's wrong here?
Well, it's early name. I guess the thing is, it's like they all have family names. It's like something for or like some play on like family names. Harefoots is just they have hairy feet. It's probably something that humans have called them, and it's just how they've referred to themselves.
Yeah. It's actually a slur that we're going to get cancelled for in 50 years.
But yeah, I still love the fact that like they're cooking, there's people like snatching the food off and everyone's eating and all this. It's like all the same vibes that we got from the Shire. Just rougher, like rough and ready. And it's more super enjoyable. I love the female main Hobbit girl. Nori, that's her name.
That's not her actual name, that's her nickname. But that's what everyone calls her. I liked it. She was really likable.
Yeah.
And you can tell that she's got to be like not a descendant. What's the opposite of descendant?
Ascendant?
No. Like in like human trees.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Of Frodo and all and Bilbo,
because she's got this really innate caring of other things outside of the community. Yeah. Which isn't very Hobbit.
There's a
They're like, we don't fuck with the environment. We take what we need. We keep moving. Whereas she's like, no, I want to help people. I want to care for people. I want to make a difference.
There's a mention in The Hobbit when Bilbo is like talking about potential, and it's like, oh, there's some mention of like an old family member that was like, oh, the last person that went on an adventure was so and so. So there is obviously this very like, there's always an odd Hobbit out that wants to go off and explore. And I like that they are still like showing that Bilbo wasn't the only Hobbit to want to explore the world. And then obviously we got, I think that episode 1, if I remember correctly, ends with the meteor shot, and we see it from lots of different POVs. And we even saw
Which
a baby.
I think they used to try and show that all of these times were synced up and happening at the same time.
I agree.
Which was handy.
Yeah, it showcased like we are seeing people at different places at the same time. I love that they showed like a little baby Ent, the tree Ents.
Yeah.
And there was like a family of tree Ents, because then everyone immediately thinks of Treebeard. And then they synced. I love the way they did this. They synced the meteor hitting with Galadriel jumping off the boat, and like that plunge into the water as the boat disappears and she's plunged back into darkness. And we got introduced to this giant who in the credits is referred to as the Stranger.
Okay, yeah. So this is my question. We're on to episode 2 now, correct?
End of episode 1, start of episode 2.
Are we supposed to know who the stranger is and I'm just not a big enough nerd?
So there is a lot of theories. I have my own theories.
Okay, so no one actually knows for certain who it's supposed to be, but people are taking educated guesses at who it probably is.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
cool.
all we know from what we've seen is he is a meteor man. When Nori fell in the pit, she mentions the fact that it's not hot, which usually coincides with evil when fire's not hot. So everyone's like,
and he seems a
"Ooh,
bit dodgy.
big guy, evil. Is this Sauron?"
Okay.
Is one thought that I know a lot of people had early. Obviously, then we see him like grab her and he freaks out a bit and like rocks float. So he's obviously magical.
See, here's my thinking. I know people are probably
No.
going to get angry. It's like, it can't be him because of this, that, and the other. But still, my first thought was, is this like Gandalf? And this is why he ends up having such a good relationship with hobbits because he got saved by a hobbit.
You're actually solid on one of the theories that a lot of people are having. The
Okay.
only reason people are not 100% saying that it is Gandalf. So, lore on the wizards, as how I know it.
Okay, one sec. So in Lord of the Rings, wizards aren't humans
No.
who've learnt magic. Wizards
No.
are their own breed of people.
Yeah, wizards got sent to Middle-earth to help.
Got ya.
So, in the books, my understanding is the wizards didn't get sent till the end part of Second Age, Third Age.
Okay,
They
where
got
are we
sent-
at? Beginning of the Second Age?
Yes. Second
Okay,
Age is
so
like
he's very
thousands of
early.
years. So, because they were sent to help deal with Sauron because he was gaining in such power. The first wizards to arrive were the two blue wizards who kind of arrived before the others. And then the first wizard after that was actually Saruman. Saruman the White.
Saruman. Okay.
You know, the one in the tower who has the weird
Yes.
orb that Gandalf goes to see and they have the fight.
Yes.
Gandalf's not meant to come till later, but we have to go back to my first point and when we opened on talking about Lord of the Rings is Lord of the Rings, like this isn't true to the lore. Amazon could do what the fuck they want.
I
So-
think for people who are getting angry about this not being lore accurate, think of it think of it
time.
as no. I would go even simpler than that. A retelling of history thousands of years later, and through the people passing the
Yeah.
story on over thousands of years, it's got diluted. Stuff gets messed up.
Timelines get messed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one theory is because Amazon aren't allowed to stay perfectly true and they could do what they want with the lore, so it's not out of the realm of possibility as this
And
is
let's
Gandalf.
be honest, Gandalf is a huge fucking sell.
He
And
is.
if after like 4 episodes, loads of news articles go out going, Gandalf is in this show, loads of people who only have watched Lord of the Rings films, like me,
Mhm.
are gonna go, Gandalf.
Gandalf.
I like Gandalf.
So yeah, so one theory is it's Gandalf in he's just arrived in Middle Earth and this is like
I didn't realise wizards were born looking old as fuck, by the way. That's kind of cool.
well it's like they're sent I don't know the exact lore of where they come from, but they're sent from somewhere. So it could just be like it's not necessarily he's born, he's just already old and arrived here.
No, he's born old, I prefer that.
And this, yeah, like you put 2 and 2 together is like it would explain why Gandalf has such a fond appreciation to the hobbits and good relationship with them and likes them.
Yeah.
Is well, if they fucking saved him when he arrived or helped him out
Yeah.
when he arrived, like yeah, it makes sense.
Gandalf actually grew up as a hobbit for his first 100 years on Earth, or Middle Earth.
Obviously, some people think it's Sauron. And
But I thought Sauron was hiding somewhere, and I
he's
didn't
meant-
realize Sauron was
so
a wizard.
he's meant to be. Well, Sauron has a like ridiculous power, like
Okay.
which is enhanced. I think, yeah, this is the thing. It's like people are like, is he fully magical or is it just like some evil power magic that he's got? I think people are more leaning towards it being Gandalf or at least one of the other wizards. Like it could be one of the blue wizards who has arrived first. Fun fact, well, not fun fact, but you probably don't know who the blue wizard, because we saw in the Hobbit? No, not the Hobbit. Yeah, it was in the Hobbit. We saw Radagast the Brown. The one
I
that's
didn't
like
watch the Hobbit, but I'll trust
okay.
you.
There's Radagast the Brown who lives out in the forest and is a bit crazy, but has like friends with all the animals. Wizard, typical like high on life, like bit crazy.
So does like, again? Correct me if I'm wrong. Based on what I'm hearing here, with Gandalf being close with the hobbits and him loving all the animals, did each like race of people get their own wizard?
Well, there was a few sent, and I think it's where they ended up settling after Saru, because Radagast the Brown was never this like cuckoo, and you get the sense off Gandalf he wasn't this cuckoo. He was always a bit cuckoo, but like living on his own in the forest made him worse after they finished doing their job, and he just protected the forest. There was obviously Saruman the White, who then turned more evil, as we saw in
Lord of the
Rings. The two blue wizards that arrived first, actually, if I remember correctly, they fell, or they ended up being influenced by Saruman and turned to his side. Okay. And that's why we never really see anything about them, because I think they got killed off during that whole like defeat of Sauron the first time before he becomes the Eye.
Got ya.
So yeah, like this could be a wizard. We don't really know. I think this is going to be one of the ones which they're like, it's going to take a few episodes till we actually find out who he is. It's going to be one of the twists.
Because, yeah, that was one of the questions I had for you that I was like, I don't know if you're going to have an answer for this, but I also don't know. Like in Marvel, all the time, someone drops in and it's like, oh, who's this person? And then you just got like half the people sitting there going, well, it's obviously this person. I wasn't sure if it was one of them situations where I'm sitting here going, the stranger, I wonder who it could be. And everyone else is like, dumbass, it's this person. Yeah. It's good to know that no one is 100% certain yet.
Because they can do their own timeline. Had this been like closer to the third age or something, and it's like a wizard sort of person around, everyone goes, oh, this is Gandalf. This lines up with when he's meant to arrive. But because it's so early, I think is why people are not 100% certain on it being Gandalf.
They could also make it a brand new character.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, you're right. They could do whatever they want, to be honest. But that was kind of like how they left him asleep under a cart, and that's how the first episode sort of ended. And then second episode, which I watched straight after, so this is why it's blurry. Yeah.
Second episode I preferred.
So this was a big thing, and I think it's the reason they released two together. And it's a problem I feel all fantasy shows have, is episode one is always very slow paced. Because in fantasy there is a lot of main characters and there's a lot of kind of backstory they have to kind of quickly get you up to speed on.
I think that's why I felt so lost during episode one, because I'm like, have you ever rocked up to lessons like day 4 of school because like you were away on holiday and you got back late and you've come back in and you're like, why are there letters in my math class all of a sudden? Did I miss something?
No,
that's kind of how I felt for the first episode.
Like, even I know bits of stuff, like I've said a few times, like, and I know there's probably going to be people in the comments going, oh, you've got this law wrong, or you covered. It's like, I'm going off what I know. I don't really know fuck all about the First Age. So it's like when I saw those opening shots and there was like a war going on, I'm like, are we reliving the Sauron fight? Like it's elves and shit again? And then realizing that, so it's like episode 1 was very much we've got to kind of touch on the First Age because it plays an important part into what the fuck's going to be going on, like the lead up. But it's like there's so much to cover to get people up to speed. First episode was kind of slow paced. I think that's why they then hit you. They got 2 episodes off the rip, and the second episode, in my opinion, was much better paced, and was a much better episode and flowed a lot better because they were able to do the setup, and it needed the 2 episodes releasing together, in my opinion. otherwise, if everyone just watched episode 1, they'd be like, not so sure. But because they gave us episode 2, I think everyone feels a lot better about the show. But we got obviously some more shots of like the we'll call him the stranger just because we don't 100% know who he is. The stranger doing like carving weird runes in the ground. Obviously they like him snapping the stick. They happened to, I don't think this was tied, but they tied it on purpose with this. He snaps the stick as Nori's dad breaks his ankle. And I don't know if they're purposefully, because they talked about bad luck, didn't they? She was like, oh, this is going to, if people find out you've helped this guy and anything bad goes wrong, they're going to blame you and say it's bad luck that you brought on. And because they're very superstitious people, the hobbits. I think they purposely timed those shots up, but I don't actually think, to make you kind of think, did the wizard break his ankle? Or was it just pure by chance? But he's obviously like...
Oh, sorry, that just made me think something.
Go on.
What if every time they get ready to leave, something goes wrong, so they think it's the universe telling them they have to stay there and they settle there, and that's what, and that becomes the Shire?
It possibly could be. Because the migration, they're meant to be migrating, and there's something obviously is going to happen with the migration that causes them to stay where they are. Obviously he's carving runes and things. We don't really know anything about him. It basically, all it shows more of the stranger guy is like he's magical in some sense and he's tied to the stars because he has the fireflies. But then they play it back into he could be evil because all the fireflies die after he's done with them, which I thought was a interesting touch because everyone, that scene when he's like he's whispering to the fireflies, similar to how Gandalf whispered to the butterfly to get aid, which is one reason why people are like, oh, is this Gandalf talking to animals the same way? But he gets all the fireflies to place themselves out. Looks beautiful, great shot, appreciate it. Finishes and then they all just drop to the ground dead. And you're like, ooh, something evil is going on here.
Yeah, it's almost like he himself hasn't decided if he's evil or not.
I think they're obviously trying to keep us guessing.
As all good shows try to do.
We also don't know a lot about how magic works in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, is that one of them things that was kept very kind of... It's magic, don't question it.
Well, at least, I don't know about lore side, but from Lord of the Rings perspective, we've only know of Gandalf and Saruman, but mainly we just see Gandalf and how he uses magic. And he didn't do anything super crazy, but we don't know if that's because he's now conservative because he knows magic can be an evil thing if overused, maybe. I don't know. So they're keeping us guessing with that. And then we got to see Khazad-dûm, which, do you know that Khazad-dûm is the Mines of Moria?
No.
Okay, I wondered if this was going to be a question. In Lord of the Rings, it's referred to as the Mines of Moria, also known as Durin's Halls, or Khazad-dûm is the dwarven name for it.
So that's the city that Elrond went to visit?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And he is friends with Durin the Fourth, which is the son of, I think it's Durin the Third, but is known as Durin the Undying. So I don't know if you remember me a couple of weeks back mentioning the thing about Durin.
Durin was known as Durin the Undying, but actually it was just he always named his son Durin.
Yeah, and they look the same.
And they all look the same, so it kind of became a thing.
And people were early before the show released. People were like, "Oh, Durin shouldn't have a son at the same time." Blah blah blah. I think it's fine. I don't think it breaks. And there is a Durin the Fourth, and it's just they're just squishing the timeline
Durin
down.
the Undying would come off the reign of Durin had ended anyway.
It came about the same time.
People would look back on history. I'm talking more realistically here.
Oh yeah.
People would look back at history and go, "Wow, there was a Durin king for 800 years, and they all looked identical." Like how everyone looks at old paintings of people who look like Keanu Reeves and go, "Keanu Reeves has existed forever." It's like it's
Yeah.
a retroactive kind of
But yeah,
thing.
I think in the books there's more a sense of like the older dwarves are like, oh yeah, this Durin's been telling the younger ones like, yeah, this is the same Durin that's been on the throne for as long as I've been alive, probably knowing full well that he was younger at one point and he
Yeah.
grew. Yeah. But I think what people need to realize is Amazon's having to squash a lot of the timeline. So bringing Durin the Fourth and his son forward into this earlier of the second age makes sense for the show. So Elrond's friends with him.
I
Obviously,
did really enjoy how angry he was. Because like dwarves live for like
so
250 years in the
yeah,
Tolkien
this is something I
universe.
will touch on. One thing first. You talked
One,
about the weird elven blacksmith guy that you thought was creepy.
yeah.
Do you realize what project he's planning on doing?
Is it the rings he's getting ready to work on?
Yes.
And obviously we know the rings corrupt people, so I assume
So
he's becoming partially corrupted just in the process of making them.
So there's 19 rings made.
Really
Sauron,
that many? Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
So there was 9 for the elves, 7 for the dwarves, 3 for the men, or 6 for the dwarves, 4 for the men, something like that. And then there's the 20th one is the one ring to rule them all, which Sauron had. Or so the theory is Sauron is already somehow, whether it's like only slightly, is already has influenced the elven blacksmith guy to start this project, knowing full well that a one ring to rule them all will be made.
Well, yeah, because why would anyone agree to a project where, yeah, we all get given this ring, but if someone has this one ring, they have control over us?
Well, they obviously they don't mention that there's one ring to rule them all. That's done in secrecy. It's obviously probably come to him in a dream or something as a way to unite all the races and give all the races equal powers. They all have these powerful elven rings, elven crafted rings. So yeah, he was wanting to make a forge and
So,
to make the rings.
so one sec, was Elrond going there to get them to agree to accept the rings once they were made, or to get their help in getting the material to make the rings?
He is he was going there to try and get the help to build the forge because he says the blacksmith guy is like, oh yeah, we need this by like the summer or something. Like basically we need this built within a few months, sort of feel like rush, which is like a huge construction job that like, yeah, there's only the two of them. They're gonna need help from like the best builders in the whole of Middle Earth, dwarves.
Which is dwarfs. Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Which is also why people are like, why is he in such a rush to have this built and made? Kind of feels like someone's influencing him to want to do this.
Which is where the creepy vibes come in because he thinks it's his own thought, but it's not.
Yeah, it could very well be the start of Saruman pushing his influence into the world. So yeah, that's why they go to Khazad Dûm. Obviously, they don't go to the entrance we all know where Speak Friend and you may enter. There's, as we know from The Hobbit, dwarven cities and the mountains had many entrances, many hidden entrances. This is obviously the entrance that Elrond knows of. And he goes and he asks to enter, and it's showing his face, and he doesn't know why. And unsure as why, he then evokes, I forget the title of it. It has a name, and essentially it's that challenge of endurance. It translates to Longbeard, which is then a challenge of endurance. So he obviously is friendly enough with From Durin and knew about this challenge and knew that if he called on this challenge, they have no choice but to bring him in.
Yeah, well, I kind of feel like the way elves are portrayed is like they're supposed to be like these higher beings that are very like intelligent and they yearn for knowledge. So the idea that he's had a dwarven friend, you would expect Elrond to fully understand the dwarven culture and therefore know about stuff like this.
Oh yeah, and like if your dwarven friend is heir to the throne, like he's probably witnessed this challenge happen from dwarves rocking up and being like, "Yo, I challenged Durin to the Battle of Endurance or whatever," and he's probably watched it from the sidelines, like all the dwarves were watching. So that's like he knows. Well, they're not letting me in. How can I get in here to talk to my friend? Oh, I'll risk it and I'll just call on this challenge, which is why he gets fucking escorted like a prisoner, sort of. But this is the first time we've ever got to see Khazad-dûm in like prime glory. And when I tell you, when that scene came on of him, they're walking
Like
through
the
the little
panning shot.
they walk out the hallway and there's just like a waterfall and like this huge open shot of the in like all its glory. I was like, oh my god, this is like heaven
Yeah,
for me.
gorgeous.
I fucking loved it. It looked stunning and
It really, really did.
it showed like how they used the like sunlight on mirrors to bring light into the inside of the mountain, and you could see the just like pure like in all its glory. And then they go into like the challenge room, and Durin arrives doing a little Khazad
Is it
Doom.
just me, or did Elrond like give up? He definitely had more left in the tank, but decided not to.
I get the sense it was like he definitely gave up a little bit early, which I think is a bit of he was never invoking this challenge to win. This was just so he could talk to his friend. And he obviously doesn't want to beat Durin and show up his friend because it's not the polite thing to do, let's be honest. You're not going to come into your friend's home and then beat him at a challenge just for the sake of beating him.
I don't know. I rocked up at many friends' houses and whooped their ass at FIFA.
It's a little bit different. you're not next in line for the throne and about to rule a whole kingdom.
True. Valid.
But yeah, I
Not
do
wrong.
think he was breaking the hammer and they gave him a new one. He could have probably carried on, but he yielded. And then this is when like what you were going to bring up just before, which is the whole we got what I thought was a beautiful scene that really showcased kind of the relationship people have with elves, not from the elven side. Because yes, we're told like many a time through Lord of the Rings that elves live for thousands of years. They're basically immortal. Like, oh, how brilliant it is to live forever, and you have like you get to see all this time and whatnot. We rarely get shown it from like a real relationship side of things from the other side of the people that aren't immortal.
Yeah.
And the fact that yes, to elves 20 years is like nothing. It like goes back like they're numb to it. Like 20 years feels like a year.
Well, it's like that was said in the monologue at the beginning. Until that war started, elves didn't even know they could die.
Yeah.
Because they didn't. Because unless killed, they live forever. So they didn't even realize they could die until this war started. So 20 years is literally piss all.
Yeah, and it's like they're just numb to it. They don't even think about the fact that like 20 years to other people is a long time. Like it's just
which is really funny because they're very emotionally intelligent race. Like they do care about other people's feelings, but when you perceive time so differently,
yeah, but they do
it's
also
really tricky.
Feel they are like they know they're from a higher power place, so
they're a little bit elitist.
Yeah, so I really did love the whole thing of like how Durin that whole monologue between the two of them and how emotional it was with him being like, I've lived a whole life in 20 years. Of course he'd be pissed off. If like one of your close mates just dipped for 20 years and never contacted you, you'd be like, the fuck? What have I done?
And you know what? It wouldn't actually even be as bad in that situation because 20 years has passed for them as well. But when you know they're going to live forever and it's
20
like
years
they've
is
forgotten
nothing.
you after 20 years, it's a long old time for you.
So I thought that was a really beautiful thing that they did and got like showcased it from that side of things. And I loved how he slowly got worn away too, because you could tell that like where he was coming from when he was saying all that, like he was more hurt that his friend had done this and he still saw him as a friend. And then he's slowly like, well, fine, you can meet my wife, but you're not staying for dinner. I'm still pissed at you.
I loved his wife so much.
She was great. And to the people that were like, dwarves don't have beards, I don't know if, yes, the female dwarves that we saw didn't, like, I wasn't sure if it was going to be just her, but yes, a few of them that we saw didn't have beards. So maybe in this world, and it's perfectly fine for Amazon to do, they might have decided that the people of Khazad-dûm and the Mines of Moria, that race of people or that city, the women shave their beards. Maybe in another dwarven mountain they don't.
Let's be realistic. The reason they've done it is so at a glance you can tell who's a male dwarf versus a female dwarf. That's why they've done it. Rightly or wrongly, whether you like it or not, that is why they've done it.
One thing they did do though, although they don't have a full-on beard, she did have a little bit of like almost sideburn wispy bits that you could tell that she's still growing like facial hair. So it's like, I think people have probably moved past that now and have got over it because it was released so long ago. But I thought she played her role great.
They've gone back to just being angry about the fact it's a black dwarf.
Yeah. But I loved the whole like, you can meet my wife, but you're not staying for dinner. And then she's like, "Oh, stay for dinner." It's like, no, he's not staying. And yes, he is. And then the kids run in with these giant like dwarven carved helm things on, and
how many times do I have to tell you not to put my heads on?
Yeah. Just like a funny, like, you can imagine like this is showing Elrond what he's missed, and this whole like kind of bridging that you're annoyed, like Durin's pissed with him, but he's still his close friend and he wants him to see his family and everything. It's like that struggle of wanting to stay annoyed at someone but you can't.
He can outweigh my annoyedness because I will die before he realizes why I'm annoyed.
And then they're obviously having their meal and they talk about the tree that he had planted, which was
really cool.
So that's a seed from the trees of light, which is from the Elven home world.
Yeah. The sapling from that tree, he said, didn't he?
And then there was a scene that everyone picked up on Twitter, I saw, which is when she, like, so I think the subtitle was like a growl, but she like gives him like that typical wife to her husband stare of like, you've done something wrong. And all of Twitter's like, oh, I think every man's seen that look from their other half before.
Yeah.
But I thought that was the way that they like did all of that relationship between the elf and the dwarf, like, was really well done.
I mean, that's the thing with all forms of media, book, TV, film, whatever. The actual thing that allows you to connect with characters is their relationships. Because these stories are not stories you can relate with. We can't relate with dealing with a war going on across hundreds of years and beings that live for thousands of years. What we can relate to is a friend hurting you and you want to forgive them because you still care about them, but you do want to be angry at them.
Yeah.
That we can all relate to very easily.
Which I think is why...
And I think that's where they've really nailed it.
Yeah, they've really nailed like the relationship side of things. That is what is relatable from the Tolkien stuff. Obviously he's there to talk to them about this opportunity, to which they don't really show them talking exactly about it because obviously wanting to try and like lead up to what it is. And then we saw the shot of Durin and his dad during the Undying, deep underground somewhere, clearly thinking that he was actually because Durin says you're here because you want something. I don't think he knew that it was they wanted their help building something. I think when they open that little chest and it glows, they obviously thought they wanted what was in there. Now, there's a couple of theories to what that might be, because we didn't see what was in the box. One is his mithril, which is what we saw Frodo get a chain vest out of from the elves. Very expensive, rare metal, because it's lightweight and very strong. So obviously a very prized resource to have some.
But the elves will definitely rock up and think they're entitled to.
Some of it, yeah. My thought, all we have to think about is we know what happens to the minds of Moria and Khazad-dûm. We know what they uncover because we see it in Lord of the Rings, the Balrog. And there's a point when Durin's wife's talking about how they resonate and they sing, and the mountain reflects them and tells them where to dig tunnels, where to mine ores, and where not to dig. Where not to dig, because they know things hide in the mountains. We also know from The Hobbit, because Thorin Oakenshield and his family, they found what's known as the Heartstone of the mountain, which is like a huge fucking gem. And we're told every mountain has a Heartstone. I think that's this mountain's Heartstone. And I think they found it. And I think, obviously, it's an incredibly amazing gem. And obviously, everyone's going to fucking want it. Any elves would probably want it. And they want to keep it secret. I think the Heartstone is what then leads them to go, maybe there's more of this deeper. So they keep digging and then they go too far. Khazad-dûm becomes the fate of what we know happens to Khazad-dûm, and they unearth a Balrog.
So another thing that I was slightly confused about. So we've obviously got this other thing, which is what they thought the elves were after. Are they also considering like double crossing them with whatever they've been asked to do as well? Because it doesn't seem like they're that keen on helping the elves.
I think it's more they thought the dwarves like to keep to themselves. That's why they live in mountains. And I think when it comes to sharing their gold or resources, the dwarves are very like, they're rich off that stuff. So they keep a lot of like their precious what they get from the mountain is theirs, and they choose how it. So if someone comes along saying, "Oh, we want some of your mithril," they're not going to be happy. I think the dwarves must be happy to, because we know the 19 rings get made. So it's like, they must be happy enough to help build a forge. And I think it's that, like, you've been gone for 20 years, you're rocking up after we've recently found this stuff. Now you want something? This is weird timing. We'll probably find out more about if they do help or not in the next few episodes. But I think some people are thinking it's like mithril. I think it's the Heartstone. And I think because we know that they dig too far and they unearth the Balrog. So it's like, obviously Khazad-dûm leads to that during the Second Age and into the Third Age. Because Gandalf doesn't know. And because when they get there, it's fucking dead to the world. And then what else happened in... Oh, we saw some of our early orcs in the human village.
Now, this is potentially just because I've not watched Lord of the Rings in so long.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I knew the orcs were the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Were the orcs created by Sauron as a genetic mutation or something? Or do they just strive for evil, and because he was the most evil, they wanted to work for him?
They're always evil creatures. So the theory of why these orcs look different to the ones we saw in Lord of the Rings is orcs, I think, are formed in the same way as they are in Lord of the Rings. It's just it was done en masse in Lord of the Rings, and they were bred. One of the theories people are just putting it down to is the orcs in Lord of the Rings were during a time of war and preparation for war. So they were being bred off of fucking ripped orcs and ones ready for fighting and battle. The ones we're seeing are more wild orcs that are breeding amongst themselves or whatever from just general evil in the world is causing them to be a thing. But they're more rough and wild and a bit scragglier and clearly just live off the land or whatever they can capture. And I think the reason they're tunneling under town and stuff and seem to be headed they're obviously being drawn to this evil that's in the east or whatever they were saying. So they're obviously drawn to evil and obviously gain from it because they get beefed up. But I thought the fight that the mum and the kid had was fucking wild, and the way she chops the head off and then it just cuts to slamming it on the guy's counter in the bar and being like, oh, is this not a problem?
This brings me up to my next couple of questions.
Okay.
The evil coming from over there that's like poisoned the cow and that.
Yes.
Is that just like the essence of evil is getting so much stronger because shit's starting to go wrong that it's causing that? Or is that someone actively doing that? Do we know or have any idea?
I don't think we know exactly. I think the theory is Gladriel kept talking about we need to go more north, the evil's in the north, because they found that fucking fortress place up in the North Ice, and it's got to be further north then, into the like uninhabitable area. When in fact, when you look on the map of Middle Earth, Mordor's like bottom right, which is like east, southeast. So one theory is this is actually Sauron's over there hiding, and obviously gaining strength, and that's why the land's getting more evil and things are being drawn to it and it's tainting things. And this could be the area that becomes what we know as Mordor.
Yeah.
But we don't know 100%. It's
and my
obviously
next question,
all linked.
Oh, I forgot what my next question was. Oh no, my next question. The fucking sword.
Yes.
I vaguely recognize it, but I'm confused.
So I don't think it's it could be. I don't think it's the same sword, like evil sword that was in Lord of the Rings. But from that age of Morgoth and that battle is when it's from, and it's like their evil, like it's their swords they forged, and it's been marked with Sauron's eye, and it clearly holds some certain evil power within it or connection. Same way as like when Frodo put the ring on the first time, he saw the eye, and it drew the kid's blood and started rebuilding itself. So it's obviously.
So is that sword going to like corrupt the kid?
Potentially. So this is the thing, like there's a few theories of who Sauron might be. It's either the giant or that kid's gonna get corrupted, or the elf blacksmith guy gets corrupted and becomes Sauron.
But I thought Sauron already existed and he was the general for the guy before.
In the books. Whether Amazon does it differently, I don't know. But people are trying.
I thought we'd already seen him though, because she spoke about one of his greatest heretics led an army, but he's gone now and we don't know where he is.
Who fucking knows what's going on? Like a lot of people seem to be theorizing who Sauron's going to be.
Is it possible that Sauron's like
just
it sounds like a title?
I think it's this might be where I'm getting confused about the books and what I know. It might be that Sauron is what a person ends up being called when they've absorbed this evil power. Sauron could be the evil power, and it corrupts people as a host, sort of thing.
Okay,
potentially.
Got ya.
That could be where I'm getting confused.
So right now we might not necessarily have a Sauron, and we've got options for who's going to get corrupted and become the Sauron.
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
But yeah, that sword's definitely not a good thing. That kid having that sword secretly is definitely not a good thing. I think it's gonna draw the orcs to them.
Because he also seems like a really angry kid as well, and I'm not sure a really angry, angsty kid with a sword that's going to feed on them energies is really
it's never a good
best
combo.
Idea.
No. But they're obviously leaving town. Where they're going, I don't know. You've got the hobbits know something's up because the typical yearly migration things are not aligning at the right times. So they're aware something's going on.
Well, yeah, Lenny Henry was reading his book going,
this is too early, or this is...
Shit's not adding.
Yeah.
Maths ain't maths in, ladies and gentlemen.
So they're like slowly teasing this growth of evil amongst everyone's noses. Obviously the elves got discharged because there's no more war and there's no evil, and then he realized he went to see his lovely human wife. Well, it's not his human wife, but his human crush, and then found a cow that was squirting out black goo. But overall, because I think that's everything that happened in the second.
Yeah, I think we've covered basically everything.
I don't know if you've got any more questions of stuff that I haven't answered.
I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot of it.
But overall, like I loved it. I get that
I really, really enjoyed it.
I get the people that are pure Tolkien, like have read all the books or something, are like really deep in the lore, went into this hoping that that was going to be the case. Kind of went in a bit naively, in my opinion. If you just like looked up about it and what the show was going to be, you would have realized they didn't have the rights. And I think if you can look past that, and like we said, it's an alternate telling of history or an alternate timeline or fan fiction version, like however you want to look at it. If you can look at it that way and just appreciate it for Middle Earth and a fantasy TV show, I think it's really great.
What I will say is I'm not the biggest fan of the fantasy genre. As I said before, a lot of the stuff gets overcomplicated, I think, to make it seem more fantastical. In 2 episodes, this show has managed to get me hooked, which I think for a fantasy show can be very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So I will commend them there. It looks really good. I really want to see where it goes, but I'm probably going to have like 3 questions every single week for you. So,
And I will do my best to keep up on everything that gets revealed.
I mean, just Lord of the Rings should have hit that MCU stride younger, and I'd have been a huge Lord of the Rings nerd instead. But they missed out on me.
I've always, I don't know what it is with fantasy. I always love dwarves in fantasy. So it's like Lord of the Rings always got me hooked. Hobbit especially got me hooked.
Dwarves are really cool. Dwarves are really cool.
And it's like getting to see Khazad-dûm and all that in this one. It's like
It
sold me
so
100%
good.
on the show.
But anyway, this episode is getting disgustingly long.
Yeah, we've talked about Lord of the Rings for obviously next week. It won't be as bad because it'll just be 1 episode. But
we knew this was going to be a big boy bumper episode anyway.
Yeah.
Right, we got some news bits to cover.
Yes.
Not loads, but we got a couple of news bits worth mentioning. The Emmys were they over the weekend, or did we just forget to mention them the last week?
No, I think they were over the weekend, or there might have been a Thursday night or the Friday.
Emmys 2022. Well, apparently they're on the 13th, which is in 5 days.
So they were early results?
So some of... Yeah, maybe.
Maybe they released some of the results that aren't like the big categories.
Yeah, I think they do.
Because the Emmys covers so much.
The Marvel's won, or maybe they've not won. I've misunderstood. Maybe they've just been nominated for 2, but I thought they won. So Chadwick Boseman received a posthumous Emmy for his voice acting in What If.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are going to go, his performance wasn't anything special, and no, maybe it wasn't. However, it was the last ever bit of acting that masterful actor will ever do.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we at least recognise that.
Mm-hmm.
Moon Knight also won or is nominated for. I'm not going to commit to they definitely won them in case I got myself confused and they've just been nominated. For some reason, I think they have won them though.
I do think they have.
Moon Knight is nominated for or has already won the outstanding sound editing Emmy. And like a lot of these really niche ones I don't pay a lot of attention to, but now that I think about it, the sound was pretty clean on Moon Knight. At no point was I going, the fuck did he say, like an old man? And at no point was there a loud noise that made me go, ugh. It felt like one of them shows where I didn't have to adjust my volume depending on what was happening, which I assume is the kind of thing they look at.
Okay, so I've just got double checked. They have won.
Okay, so some Emmys for like the less big awards must be like pre-announced who's won them.
Yeah, so they won Outstanding Sound Editing.
Awesome.
So it's basically just the sound design and stuff.
Yeah, it's always nice to see Marvel shows get the recognition they deserve. Whether you think the quality of Marvel has or hasn't dropped off in recent years, I think in the early days of Marvel, it definitely got overlooked for awards it should have been in the competition for, due to the fact it was superhero films.
Yep.
And I think now there's kind of potentially being a bit of an overcorrection.
Yeah.
But a lot of award shows are fucking bogus anyway and don't really mean anything because they have an agenda for what they want to give awards to. So, but it's always fun to know what's going on.
just to confirm, Chadwick did win his as well.
Austria semi.
Yeah.
The really big news. I promise you, until next week, where we actually have D23 news, this will be the last thing I say about D23. The rumours this week have really ramped up regarding Spider-Man 2 by Insomniac. So we mentioned a few weeks ago, I said, I wonder if we'll see anything from Spider-Man 2, because D23 announced that on the Friday, today as you guys are listening to this, that there's going to be a Games Expo as part of it. And we looked and we said, there's a Sony showcase in like a week and a half's time. We probably won't get anything then. But apparently, based on what I'm seeing, a lot of people seem to be really convinced we are going to get something relating to Spider-Man 2. But here's my thought. Spider-Man 2 is actually going to be held for Sony's thing in a week's time. But Insomniac are going to be at the Games Expo, but for Wolverine instead. What I think has happened is people have found evidence that Insomniac are showing something.
Yeah.
They've forgotten about Wolverine and gone straight for Spider-Man 2. We've got to remember, Sony own like the film rights to Spider-Man as well. So they're a lot more vested in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Whereas Marvel, who might well be announcing an X-Men film or a Wolverine project or something like that, also showing off the Wolverine game, probably gives more exposure to the Wolverine game than the Sony event will do. So I actually think, although everyone seems to think it's Spider-Man, I'm more leaning on it's going to be a Wolverine update.
I would agree. And especially because a Spider-Man 2 game, like, no offense to the Wolverine game, I'm sure it's going to be great.
Oh, it's probably going to be so good.
But a Spider-Man 2 game is going to be bigger, like, it's bigger IP, bigger news, because the first one's done so well. Like, it's going to draw a lot more attention.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. Let's be just completely fucking honest here. Spider-Man is and has always been the biggest superhero in the fucking world.
Yeah.
People can say it's Batman, people can say it's Superman. They're fucking lying. Spider-Man is the biggest and most well-known superhero in the entire world.
Yeah. So it would make sense for them to want to keep that for themselves and announce it as their own thing rather than letting Disney get to announce it, which then leads to, well, if they're going to focus on Spider-Man for their own thing, they're probably going to let Wolverine be announced at D23.
The only other potential option is that they show a new short teaser trailer for Spider-Man 2 to build a little bit of hype for it, and then the showcase, they go into it in more depth.
Yeah, potentially.
I think that is very possible.
But I think we're more likely to get a new trailer for Wolverine and then maybe some gameplay for Wolverine. And then they, at the Sony thing, they do a Spider-Man trailer or teaser, and then they go, right after that, the Sony thing, they go, and we're actually going to show you some gameplay as well. And do it all in one. But I guess we'll just wait and see. We'll find out. I don't know. Has there been any other, like, new bigger D23 rumors? I don't think there really has.
I was really surprised. Even though we did our predictions and stuff last week, I thought this week we'd probably have a fair few rumors that have really ramped up out of nowhere. But it doesn't look like it has. Just maybe a lot of Fantastic Four talk. Well, yeah. I think the internet might implode if the Fantastic Four cast isn't revealed.
Yeah, I think everyone will kick the fuck off. But I'd be very surprised if they didn't. Would be very surprised. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. For D23 anyway.
I mean, it'll be interesting. Next week is going to be another long episode with She-Hulk episode 5, which I'm hoping Daredevil's going to appear in. Rings of Power episode 3.
Yeah.
As well as loads of D23 news. We're gonna be eating good, folks.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long episode next week as well, probably.
They say like this has been a short episode.
Oh, this hasn't been short. I know it hasn't been short. I've rambled like mad about Rings of Power.
No, but it's fine because normally people have to listen to me about rambling, and now it gets to be you.
It does.
So
and
I can't wait for you to finally get shit for not being able to talk because you stuttered once.
I'm just looking forward to people calling me out for why you just blindly loving Rings of Power when the lore is so wrong. I'm so ready for it.
I don't know what it is. For some reason, you're allowed to blindly hate stuff, but not blindly love stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it is what it
Internet,
is.
though, innit?
I disagree with blindly loving or hating anything. But sometimes I can't like explain why I love something. So I'm just kind of like, is very good, is very nice.
It's very good, very nice.
Exactly. Anyway.
Yes.
Superhero Showdown.
Yes.
As we explained, everyone's been seeded in their groups. Fight to the death. Basically a neutral environment, but not really, because the lower seed gets an advantage. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
This week we have Captain America,
Mm-hmm.
who I believe is the 2 seed, fighting against Scott Lang's Ant-Man, who is the 7 seed in the Marvel Heroes group.
Yes.
As a result of this, me and Hori decided ahead of time this time, because we were getting more professional, that the only real kind of leveling of the playing field would be to remove Captain America's shield from the equation. So it's Scott Lang in his Ant-Man suit versus Captain America without his shield. Once again, we've run into the same issue as we normally run into in the early stages of the bracket. I am pretty good at seeding stuff. And although this does become a much more interesting fight without Cap shield, Scott is a little bit too erratic and Cap is a little bit too disciplined.
Yeah.
For Scott to really get away with it. I think Scott might cause him trouble 100% because of the shape-shifting and knowing how, not shape-shifting, size-shifting and knowing how to use his powers. But Cap has the patience to get to know his movements, wait for the right timing, and as he fucking goes from small to big, catch him in the fucking jaw and knock him out in one punch. Because you've got to remember, Scott isn't enhanced in any way.
No.
And Captain America is super strong. If he punches him in the face, he's going to be unfucking conscious.
Yeah. For fun, what if Scott Lang was to go small and go up Cap's butt and then go big?
I don't know. That Captain America suit is pretty tight.
True. You'd have to probably go to the quantum realm to get inside there. I'm just, to be honest, I think, where was it? Someone asked that about why didn't you do that to Thanos? And
that was a very popular fan theory.
I don't know if it was Scott or someone else responded to it and was like, well, he could have done that, but I also don't think Scott would have also survived that. Because Scott's not superhuman.
Yeah, we don't know how tight Thanos' anus is and what his skin's like.
I don't think Scott could do much damage to a super soldier's.
Yeah. I definitely think
throw it in there.
I definitely think he's going to cause problems because of the size shifting, but Cap will defend himself well enough for long enough to work out what's going on. We've got to remember Cap is an expert strategist. He will bide his time and then wait for the opportunity to present itself to end the fight.
Yeah, and I think like Scott might try and get creative with making objects larger and stuff and using those to try and find, but I don't think. We also know like it's not like he can just go large for the whole fight because he can't stay large for that long, really. Yeah. And Cap will just outlast him stamina wise.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll try and use being tiny, but like you said, I think Cap will just analyze it, put up with the nuisance of the fight, like just whatever at the beginning, analyze it to the point where he gets the timings down and just clocks him.
Someone like a Hank Pym, who like did some training with Steve Rogers when they were on the Avengers together, would have maybe a better chance. but I still think it's a rough one. I mean, there's a reason I put Captain America as the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
He's strong, he's fast, he's smart. It's a deadly fucking combo.
Yeah, and I don't even think like using ants to help him or anything. Like there's not really much outside of just Ant-Man hitting Cap that he can do to kind of help himself. And
don't get me wrong, he'll be able to hurt him because, you know, obviously the whole, he makes himself small and throws a punch that feels like a fucking bullet.
well, yeah.
So yeah, it's going to hurt, but like we said,
It's
Cap will just do his best to where he can do this all day.
Yeah.
He's just going to wait you out, buddy.
Yeah.
You don't have enough stamina to be throwing haymakers for 4 hours.
Agreed. That's the thing. It's like, Scott's going to be annoying, but at the end of the day, Cap's like can do this all day. He's just going to, like, his stamina is just going to outlast Scott, and Scott's going to get tired and get sloppy with his timings, and Cap will just catch him.
Exactly. So there we go. Captain America is our winner. Ding, 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 ding.
Who saw that coming?
Me.
Everyone.
Now I'm gonna throw Hurry off here.
Oh,
it's gonna be great.
House of Dragons. You've watched it?
No, not a chance. How's the boys going, Hurry?
What's that? What show?
We have not mentioned this since like
what, Black Panther?
Episode 10, maybe, if we're lucky.
God.
We do actually have an affiliate link for Forbidden Planet. And that affiliate link it might be in the description to this video, but if not, it's definitely in the link tree down below.
Yes.
If you follow that link and then buy anything from the Forbidden Planet website, as long as you've entered the website through that link, it helps us out. If you're interested in comics or you collect Pop Funkos or anything like that, anything nerdy related, they might be able to get you covered. So feel free to drop down below and do that. You can also set up subscriptions for comics weekly, like I have done. And at the minute, I just had a backlog of the current Amazing Spider-Man run come in. Very nice, very good.
Absolute nerd.
So I'll be getting more of them
such a
monthly as they come in. And that is a good thing that you can do with Forbidden Planet. You can set up monthly comic orders and you can edit them at any time and shit like that. You just the whole time.
I was definitely not chatting shit about how much of a nerd you are.
I'm such a huge nerd. Oh wait, can you see it? I don't know if you can. Yeah, look, right.
Oh, he's trying.
Ooh.
He's trying.
Right there. It's a big old Spider-Man book. Omnibus #1 from back in the day. Anyway, that link is down below. If you are already the kind of person who does buy comics, if you use it, it's not going to cost you any more money, but it does help us out. We would greatly appreciate it. Other things that cost you nothing but do help us is the like button and the subscribe button and the commenting how much you love the thing. All of the good things cost you nothing, help us out loads. Yeah, even the shitty comments do actually help, as much as it annoys me.
If you've watched this whole episode and you got to this point, you've bit your tongue on all the Lord of the Rings stuff. Unleash. Just tell me all the things I got wrong. It totally will not help us.
But I hope you have a lovely weekend. I mean, we're going to keep doing this anyway. I don't know why I said. If you like the video so we know to keep going. We're going to keep going. We've already decided. We have huge egos. We're not letting this thing die.
We're
going to make this thing work in spite of you.
If you're listening to this, I hope you enjoyed episode 3 of Rings of Power. Enjoy listening to us talk about it next week.
I'm so excited for all of the good contents.
Yes.
And I feel like
we're gonna end up rambling, so I think we cut ourselves there.
Yeah, we did.
We appreciate everyone.
Goodbye. Be gone.
We'll see you next week.